the realization that I'd become my father, maybe even the realization that I was worse than my father because he was just an alcoholic, and here I was it was alcohol and drugs.
Hi everyone, I would like to welcome you back to our show here. It's Coffee with Kuda. Today we are interviewing Ken, who has come from a very, very long road of addiction and then recovered. Ken was, he actually started to try recovery from the age of 28 years old, and all the way to 40 years old, it was a cycle of recovery, being clean, going to jail, going to use again. Today, Ken is 9 years clean. He's in his 9th year of being clean. This is an incredible person with a will and a desire like none other. It is my honor and my joy to be sitting here with Ken today. How are you doing?
I'm awesome.
Awesome,
Thanks.
yeah. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. It is my pleasure to be sitting with you. I know you are very proud of what you have accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking earlier with you. You told me if you can just tell the world again, you started using at a very young age.
Yeah, I was raised in an alcoholic family, so it was around, and my parents partied, and me and my brother would get up in the morning, and there'd be leftover drinks, and that's where it started. It was we'd finish up those drinks and
Leftover drinks. Roughly, you're young.
yeah, probably 6, 7.
Okay. So you were exposed to substances very early in itself. Did it become so bad that, did you finish high school?
No, didn't finish high school. Got locked up as a first offense as a youth.
Wow.
And spent 2 years locked up there. Started pills while I was locked up. Got released the day I became an adult.
That's 18 or 19?
18 in Alberta, yeah.
That's 18, hey? Okay, so you're released now. You spent time in jail. You don't have high school education.
No.
What's out there for you?
Well, it wasn't a whole lot. The reality, I had some exposure to some construction, so
Okay.
so it was construction, but there was the hustle of crime,
Okay. Okay.
and so that paid way better than working hard. So it was, and it was tough to hold down a job when you're partying all the time too.
True that. That's an interesting point you said about the life of crime is paying better than you working hard, which I think is a reality for most who
Yeah.
are actually in that life right now. How does one change their mind frame to say the life of working hard is better than the life of crime?
That was a long process because it was like when I got clean, it was I was really undisciplined. So it started with learning how to go to bed at a reasonable hour so I could get up at a reasonable hour. It started with learning to make a bed, like being responsible for my life. And I wasn't really employable, that first year or so because it was, physically I wasn't in shape, mentally, emotionally I wasn't in shape. So there was, other areas that needed some healing.
Okay.
Before I was in a position that I could hold down a job. We could get a job, but keeping it was another
That's
thing.
a difficult part.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that's when you decided to try recovery at 28? Or
Yeah.
what pushed you to try recovery at 28?
Well, I grew up thinking I was never going to be like my father. And my 2 sons I had 2 sons at the time, 5 and 7, and they're like, "Dad, please, no more." And my heart just hit the floor because I was my father. And so that drove me into treatment the first time.
That's at 28?
Yeah.
You had a 5-year-old by that time. You had a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old.
So a 7-year-old, yeah.
And they said, please no.
No more. And so it was, the realization that I'd become my father, maybe even the realization that I was worse than my father because he was just an alcoholic, and here I was it was alcohol and drugs. So.
Tell me, what substances are you using outside alcohol? What else are you using at this time?
At 28, it was, doing a few lines of cocaine, smoking lots of weed or hash, combustibles, and drinking. Basically at 28, that was all I was into.
Okay. Then you tried recovery. You're now in and out of recovery houses.
Yeah.
It's kind of working. Sometimes it's not.
Well, my experience was, I come into recovery, and my understanding of addiction then was you remove the substance and you're going to be okay.
Okay.
And my reality was I got sober, and I was more angry, more frustrated, more unhappy.
That touches a powerful point. I guess then that's where mental health and substance use link. Because now if you remove the substances, what is left?
Well, yeah, because all my coping mechanisms that I developed in my life, they worked out there in the active addiction world, and they don't really work in recovery world. Like being aggressively angry doesn't work. People don't want to see that, eh?
So does that mean counseling and therapy is now needed there, or is it more like an exposure?
Yeah, for me it was.
Yeah.
There was lots of underlying stuff, we'd like to call it. Later to learn that there was, emotional maturity that there needed to be growth in those areas.
I think the area of PTSD is not touched upon a lot when people are talking substance use, because right here, there you are, you're saying, after we remove the substance, I'm not dealing with the underlying stuff, which needs to be worked on a lot. But it sounds to me like when you realize that it's what actually maybe led to recovery being more successful.
Oh yeah. See, I'm of an era that we didn't call it PTSD. We had issues. Later to learn that it was, the aggressiveness of the upbringing. It was like children were to be seen, not heard, and in our family. And, there were certain family rules, and if you broke them, Pops would grab a belt or a stick or whatever was handy, and you got it. Back then it was, they call it child abuse today. Back then it was, you got a beating.
It was a way of upbringing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, I know prior to 35, you had not really touched what we call hard drugs, I guess. At what age did you start using these serious hard drugs, class A drugs?
What age? So I was in the mid-30s somewhere. I can't say exactly how old I was. I was, not in recovery at one point, and I was with a couple friends, and we were partying, and I was putting cocaine in a reefer, and they were doing a whack. And it was like they were getting instantly off, and I was like, I want to try that. And I tried cocaine intravenously the first time, and that idea thing said, I just found a cure to alcoholism. Wow. And I never really had an issue with alcohol again, because it was now I was into the IV drug use.
Cocaine, MDMA?
Yeah, MDA. I started using heroin just because, you know, you use coke for 4 or 5 days around the clock. You need something to take the edge off.
Yeah.
And I was just using it so I wasn't so crazy on the cocaine, and unbeknownst to myself, got addicted to that too.
That's it keeps coming up. Using cocaine as the party drug, right? And then you're up for so long, but then all of a sudden you realize, if I want to be able to function, I gotta use the heroin.
Yeah, you use something else, yeah.
Right. And then now you have two addictions you're fighting against.
Yeah, you could call it two addictions. And
how did you conquer both?
The treatment facility that I always ended up at was a zero tolerance. So you had to be off everything to go there.
Okay.
So it was, you know, you'd have to give it up. Sometimes I would make it on the list and get a bed at detox, and sometimes the list was too long. So I would just go through the withdrawals at the house. It was, if you're desperate, you do whatever you know.
Right.
If there's no bed, you sleep on the couch, sort of thing. And
Correct.
I remember one time going to a recovery house, and the couches were full, and there was 3 of us lined up on the floor. And you gain seniority by getting a couch, and then eventually got a bed. But it was like the guy that ran the place was, the demand for space was more than he had for space. So he would put guys on couches. He would put guys,
Wow.
he would let guys sleep on a sleeping bag on the floor, because it was like, what are you going to do?
Okay.
Somebody wants recovery, you got to give them a space.
I want to touch. So I think at 44, you took that chance and say, "I'm going to be clean." That's when you became 2 weeks shy of 6 years.
Yeah,
clean,
that was the
right?
beginning of it. Yeah.
At that stage, at 44 to 46, what was the driving factor? Because from 28, you were cycling, jail, recovery, then you use. But at this point here, what really drove you to try to be clean?
I imagine it was probably, you know, disappointed in myself for not being able to maintain any sobriety.
So it was more disappointing yourself. Okay.
Embarrassment of having to say I'm coming back again. You know, it's, even to this day, people that are chronic relapsers, and, you know, they say they're coming back, and people with clean time can kind of go like, yeah, right. We'll cheer them on for a few weeks and see what happens. But you know, you get into that cycle, and people don't take you seriously when you've come back 10 or 15, 20 times.
Right, correct. What are your children saying at this point before before you take the road to recovery at 40? What is the relationship with your children at this point?
I had a little bit of a relationship with my daughter. I had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. So my daughter, we had a little bit of a relationship. The boys, we didn't have any relationship at the beginning.
Really? Yeah. As in, that's so disappointed, or?
Yeah, well, they were hurt, eh? So I wasn't there. I was my father. You know, the apple didn't fall far from the tree, so it was like every disappointment that I had growing up,
It's just been passed on.
I passed on to them. So even to this day, 2 of my boys don't even talk to me.
Despite your efforts to be clean and really.
And that's, you know, I can't force them, so it's, you know, you hope that one day they'll want a relationship, but you can't force one.
But your 2 other children, you have a relationship today.
Yeah.
Yeah, that must feel good.
It is. It can.
It can.
Well, like my youngest boy, he was battling addiction, so it was like, as a father, you want to do everything for him, to the point you become the enabler, and that just leads to disappointment, because he was in the same cycle that I was in. So,
you mentioned as a father, How did your father feel when he saw that you're now in addiction?
Well, he wasn't happy that I was in addiction, and I remember the first time I got a year clean, he came to my cake. We have cakes, sort of thing, celebrations, and after my third year cake, we were sitting talking, and he said, "Well, at your first cake, I thought bullshit." And he said, after your second cake, I thought bullshit maybe. And he said, after your third cake, he said, I was proud.
Really?
And that was like the first time I ever heard him say that.
Really?
So that was a big day.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Is he alive right now?
Yes, he's alive.
What's the relationship like with your father?
I have a great relationship with him. He's still the man he's always been.
Right.
I had to learn that going to him, I had to own my own expectations of how I wanted him to show up. Once I realized he's only capable of showing up a certain way,
Right.
I didn't have the disappointment that goes with it.
Ooh, right.
So if I don't go there with huge expectations, he can't disappoint me. So we have a good relationship today.
Yeah.
But he's still the man he's always been.
Right. But you're able to mend your relationship with him,
Yeah.
while you're able to work on your relationship with your children.
Yeah.
And then hopefully this gets passed on to your grandchildren as well.
Yeah.
To that, I guess, more of a clean relationship between a parent and a child.
Yeah, I have an awesome relationship with my granddaughter, and
Yeah.
she's never seen me use.
Right.
So there isn't a whole bunch of healing that needed to go on. I just had to show up.
That's exciting. I do want to talk now. You were 2 weeks shy of being clean,
Yeah.
and you are now about 48, 49 years old. What led to that relapse, and how did it feel?
Well, I was working in a treatment center, and my mother was in stage 4 cancer, and she died in my arms. A month later, the lady that I was in partnership with, she relapsed and died. And then a month after her death, one of my employees, who was 10 years sober, running one of the groups, committed suicide. And I had no real skills on how to deal with loss like in those degrees.
3 in a row, it sounds like.
Yeah, in 30-day increments. So it was, the first one was hard, and the second one was mind-blowing, and then the third one, it just pushed me over the edge. I knew I was going to get loaded. I was going to 2 or 3 meetings a day. I'd reached out to an A&D counselor, and but I knew where I was headed, and there was no stopping it.
Really? There was no stopping it?
No. I've come to learn now that I didn't have any faith. You know, my higher power, as the program likes to teach us, I wasn't connected. You know, I didn't trust God. I didn't trust anything. And it was like, oh, I can fix this, and the reality is I couldn't fix it.
Okay, so then you relapsed, but it only took you a year to come back and get clean again.
Yeah.
Was there something within that year that maybe you're using and you're like, I'm using, but something just doesn't feel right?
Well, I knew it wasn't. I knew from my experiences with recovery that there was a good life out there. I just didn't know how to get back to it. It was like I'd allowed addiction to take over again. So it was, you know, I don't know if I'm worthy of it. I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah.
There was lots of things in my mind that was going on. You know, I call my addict Slit, and you know, he was saying I was unworthy, and you're not going to get it, so why waste any time?
Right.
You know, and if you listen to those thoughts, the negative, you're not going to do it.
but you then decided to, this is it.
Yeah.
Did someone ask you to go to recovery, to treatment center, or was it you who said, I want to go to treatment center?
Oh, I kept trying to get back into
Or you
it.
kept trying yourself?
Yeah, yeah. But that was the 2006, 2007, the recovery society has changed
Correct.
over a period of time, and the bed availability changes all the time.
Right.
Like today, that's the biggest thing is
Beds.
an addict that wants recovery has a problem getting a bed at detox.
Correct, yeah.
And the waiting list in a lot of the treatment places are 3 to 6 months. And you can't tell an addict that wants recovery today, well, wait, because there's no waiting.
Okay. So you finally get in a treatment center. And was it a 9 month or 12 months?
Where I went to, it was open-ended.
Oh.
So you could stay as long as you wanted or as little as you wanted.
Wow.
They ask you for 30-day increments.
Okay. How long did you do that treatment center for?
6 months.
6 months.
Yeah.
And then did you start working there?
Second time around, no.
Okay.
No, I didn't go back to working in the field after the first
Really?
period.
So now, how did you manage to stay clean? What kept you so busy that you were like, I'm done?
Well, after I left that treatment center, I moved in with a friend that had 10 years of sobriety. So, the bubble of protection that you're in when you're in a treatment center was kind of just expanded. So it was like there was an expectation when I was living there that you had to stay sober or clean and move on in life. So it was like I was working part-time
Perfect.
and living.
I do want to ask about, I don't know if you are aware of the right to live at risk.
The which?
The right to live at risk. So in Canada, we have what we call a right to live at risk. And one of those is one where it's okay for that person to use heroin, let them do what they want. They have a right to live at risk. What do you think about that?
I sobered up in the zero tolerance era. There was people around in the harm reduction.
Correct.
And I think the changing point for me was one day I was talking to this lady I know, and I said, she was on methadone, and I said, don't you ever want to get off that? And she said to me, she says, Ken, she says, I have a home. I don't sell my ass on the corner, and I don't go to jail. And for me to realize, she used the word home. She didn't say I have an apartment.
Okay.
So she had a home. She wasn't selling her ass on the corner, so there was no more immoral stuff going on. And she would stop going to jail. And I thought about it, and it's like, those are huge accomplishments.
Okay.
So who am I to judge whether her being on methadone or not was right or wrong? So I've kind of curtailed the way I look at that quite a bit because of talking to that woman. So some need it. I think some take advantage of it.
Okay. Were you ever on methadone and?
Not officially in the methadone program.
Okay.
There's lots of that stuff on the street too. So.
Correct.
I've done it. Like you buy it on the street. And when I was on the downtown east side, it was, there was quite a bit of it available. So you could buy it cheap, and in the morning, if you woke up and you were sick, you could do it.
This leads me to, some people quit court taking. Some people go through opiate treatment programs. do you find one that says this is more effective? And how did you manage to quit opiates? Was it through opiates treatment or was it quitting cold turkey?
No, for me it was cold turkey. I do know some people that have never come off the, opiate alternative.
Yeah.
And then I've known some that have been weaned off it medically with a doctor. Some are successful, some aren't. That's a tough call.
That's a tough call.
Yeah.
What is if you're quitting cold turkey, what would you suggest someone? They're here sitting, I want to quit cold turkey because Ken has done it, or I want to be weaned off it because Jonathan has done it. What's your suggestion to the person, and which one would you say, everyone is different, but which one would you more?
Well, my way of thinking is you're going to suffer anyway, so you might as well just suffer once and get off it.
Okay.
Because my friends that have been weaned off it, every time they go down, they suffer a little bit.
Right. So
they go through the withdrawal process, physically. And I'd rather have it in one block of suffering and then be free from it than whole bunch of little blocks.
Perfect. I'm going to touch on a little bit before we come to an end here. A kid who is in the situation that you were in, 10, maybe 15 years old. What would you suggest to this kid to not end up dropping out of school, going to jail, and being stuck in the addiction cycle?
Well, I think addiction's a loss of relationships.
A loss of relationships.
So it's like if somebody's suffering and they think alcohol or drugs are going to be the solution, is to talk about it. Reach out to people and talk, whether it's in school, whether it's in a peer group or family unit.
So you would recommend this discussion in school?
Oh, yeah. The reality is kids are getting bullied all the time, and they're exposed to stuff. I believe kids grow up way faster now than 20, 30 years ago. So our understanding of what they're going through has changed. Right. So it's like it's to reach out, to find somebody that you can talk to. When I got clean, I had one person I could talk to that I felt comfortable talking to, and I reached out to that woman almost daily at the beginning.
Okay, we're going to cut this off now, but I do like where this is going, and this touches on the reason why we do Coffee with Kuda. How does one avoid the road to addiction? And that part right there, I hope you will accept my second invitation to this sit down.
Yes.
Right? Because I do want to hear what we can tell to what we can tell these children, and open up a discussion in the schools. Like, guys, there are people who are suffering in silence. Let's talk to them and find out what's going on at home, what's going on in the school. I will not keep you any longer. Our time is run out, but I hope you can accept our second invitation because we do want to dig into that.
Certainly, yeah.
Certainly. Yeah. Ken, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sitting with you. I hope to see you soon, okay?
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you again. Hey guys, thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Do not miss next week's episode. We speak to Freddie, who talks about his life in the Middle East, being in the army, as well as coming over here and joining a gang. You have to understand that this man came here fearless, not being afraid of death. He goes deep into the story and yet how he succumbed to substances. Freddie's story is amazing, and today he's helping with our vulnerable people. I'll see you guys next week.